Doris Day passed away with a secret, and only one person knew it. For 97 years, America's sweetheart remained silent regarding what transpired on April 5, 1968, the evening that her husband, Martin Melcher, passed away, the evening she learned that her $20 million fortune had vanished, the evening she discovered contracts she had never signed. Her best friend remained quiet for decades, and the truth includes betrayal, hidden records, and a call that was too late. Doris Day began life in Cincinnati, Ohio's working-class streets, where she was born on April 3, 1922, as Doris Mary Kaphoff. Her father, William, was a choirmaster and music teacher, and her mother, Alma, remained home to care for the family. Life was not simple, but music was never far from reach because of her father, and Doris sang as a youth in church choirs and participated in local talent competitions. She was a German-American and lived modestly, but she was given every support by Doris that she could possibly have wanted, and even at an early age, she had the kind of discipline and perseverance that would eventually make her a household name. In Doris's 14th year, all appeared to alter as she became partners with Jerry Doherty as a dancing partner, and both entered a local talent show in Cincinnati and won $500, a staggering amount of money at the time, over $9,000 equivalent today. That award wasn't merely about the money. It provided Doris and Jerry with the assurance that they might succeed in Hollywood, so they loaded up their aspirations and set west hoping for fame. For Doris, it was the beginning of what she imagined would be a career on stage as a dancer, but destiny had other things in mind. A week before she was to relocate to Hollywood permanently, disaster befell Doris when she was 15 and the car she was in was struck by a train. The accident crushed her right leg, and the damage was so extensive that she had to remain in bed for several months, closing out her dancing career before it really got underway. The timing was tragic. For one night, she was dreaming of Hollywood, and the next, she was confronting an unplanned future. The agony, physical and emotional, was suffocating, but Doris would not quit. While in bed recuperating, she discovered renewed inspiration listening to the radio and falling in love with Ella Fitzgerald's voice, whose singing stirred something deep within her. Doris made up her mind that if she was not able to dance, she would sing, and she started taking singing lessons, giving her all to each practice until gradually, singing turned out to be her new passion. The accident that might have cut short her aspirations brought forth a new aspiration instead, and Doris reinvented herself from being a dancer to a singer, demonstrating a resilience that would become her hallmark. Her break came when band leader Barney Rapp heard her sing, and thinking her actual name Kapelhoff was too long for show business, she was inspired by the song Day After Day to adopt the stage name Doris Day. It was a new beginning that signaled the time she actually entered the entertainment world. At only 18, Doris was a member of Les Brown and his Band of Fame, following a brief stint with Bob Crosby's band, but Les Brown recognized something unique in her and described her as the ultimate singer, gifted, considerate of the words, and beautiful to behold. Doris's pure, truthful voice was distinctive because she didn't overplay the drama. She just sang from the heart. In World War II, her voice was the voice of comfort for Americans back home. And even when a recording ban prevented many artists from recording between 1942 and 1944, Doris remained in the hearts of people with live performances and on radio. And then came Sentimental Journey, which she recorded with Les Brown on November 20th, 1944, and when it broke onto the airwaves in early 1945, it was a sensation. The song resonated with 1 million returning soldiers, hit number 1 on the Billboard chart, remained in the top 10 for 23 weeks, and sold more than 1 million copies, which was amazing given that material shortages during the war made it difficult to press records. Her next single, My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time, which was recorded on March 2nd, 1945, also reached number 1, and these recordings made Doris Day a household name and voice of a generation. Doris struck out on her own in 1946, and what ensued was one of the most successful recording careers of all time. Between 1947 and 1967, she sang more than 650 songs covering jazz, pop, country, Latin, and even soft rock, producing 11 movie albums and 20 studio albums. A minimum of 8 of her albums went to the top 5, and half of them reached number 1 between 1949 and 1955, and between 1948 and 1958, 9 of her records sold more than 1 million copies, and her songs lingered on the charts for a total of over 8 years. The size of her success was phenomenal, but most important was the way she made people feel. Doris Day's rise to fame started with a screen test at Warner Brothers, where they noticed something unusual in her, a combination of beauty, warmth, and a singing voice that eclipsed the usual starlets of the period. There was just one little problem, as another Doris Day was already employed on B-Westerns, and the confusion created headaches in credit listings, but Warner Brothers didn't mind. They were certain that they had discovered the next big thing out of Hollywood, and in 1946 signed her to her first film contract. Not an offer of employment, so much as a risk on a new face who would soon illuminate the silver screen. 2 years down the line, this wager paid off, and in 1948 Doris made her movie debut with Romance on the High Seas, directed by Michael Curtis, a film that catapulted her to center stage. Fans fell in love with her instantly. Her looks dazzled, her vitality was contagious, and when she sang, the cinema seemed to bated breath. The movie was a success, the soundtrack was acclaimed, and overnight Doris Day was no longer one of the latest new actresses. She was a star, and her ascendancy seemed unstoppable. In 1949, she demonstrated it wasn't luck, starring in My Dream Is Yours, and it's a great feeling. Both musical comedies and both box office hits. My Dream Is Yours let Doris Day showcase her voice and bright temperament, but It's a Great Feeling locked it up, demonstrating that Doris Day could top bill a picture and delight critics and audiences in equal measure. Hollywood now had its new musical queen, and Doris Day had not yet begun, with what then unfolded being a tempo that few were able to match. She appeared in Tea for Two, The West Point Story, and Young Man with a Horn in 1950. While each film showed a different aspect of her talent, that was nothing to what 1951 had in store. She did 5 films in 12 months, among them On Moonlight Bay and Lullaby of Broadway. The pace was grueling, but Doris never wavered. She poured herself into every performance, gaining a reputation as a professional that the studios respected and envied. She was more than a star. She was a workhorse, churning out hit after hit and raising the standard for work ethic. There was Calamity Jane in 1953. That was the part that felt most comfortable to Doris. She later cited it as her favorite later in 2019. She referred to herself as a tomboy in her childhood, and acting Jane allowed her to tap into that. She rode horses, shot guns, and sang as if the entire West was listening. The audiences adored it. The movie turned gender roles around. There was a loud, raunchy woman in men's attire, but also a tender-hearted character. The title song Secret Love in the movie earned the Oscar for Best Original Song and went on to be an anthem for people looking for acceptance. The success of the movie was followed by a stage musical in 1961, and Calamity Jane continues to be one of Doris's most acclaimed performances. Doris stunned again in 1956 with Alfred Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much. The thriller revealed a new aspect of her. She was Jo McKenna, a mother whose child is kidnapped. Gone was the songbird with the light and carefree song. Instead was a woman who was filled with terror and determination. The premiere of the film brought rave notices, and the picture became a success. The moment she discovers she has lost her son remains one of her strongest. And when she performed K.R. Sarah, composed for the movie, it was more than a song. It was a mother's wail enclosed in a lullaby. The song took home the 1956 Oscar and became Doris's trademark, indelibly linked with that eerie, lovely moment. Doris and Rock Hudson became Hollywood's darling couple, beginning with Pillow Talk in 1959. The movie was risky for its era, full of flippant, risque humor. It grossed $18.50,000 in the U.S. and was at the top of the box office for 7 consecutive weeks. Doris received her sole Oscar nomination for Best Actress. Their on-screen chemistry was so ideal that 2 more successes followed. Love Her Comeback in 1961, grossing $7.60, $6 million on rentals, and Send Me No Flowers in 1964. The movies not only entertained, but also broke preconceived notions about love and sex on screen. The code even attempted to prevent Pillow Talk from releasing under its title, that it was too suggestive. In 2009, the movie was included in the National Film Registry, evidence of its enduring influence. Doris also managed to hold her own with Hollywood's top stars. In Teacher's Pet, she co-starred with Clark Gable, who was 57 years old. Their casting shocked many, but people adored it, and the movie was a success. Gable admired her wit and courage. In Love Me or Leave Me, she co-starred with James Cagney, performing so powerfully that many felt she should have been nominated for an Oscar. She co-starred with Cary Grant in That Touch of Mink and with Ronald Reagan in Storm Warning and The Winning Team. She even dated Reagan for a while before politics consumed his life. Doris Day signed up with Barney Rapp's band in Cincinnati in 1940 when she was 16. She was already making waves with her voice. That's where she met 23-year-old Al Jordan on trombone. Immediately, Doris didn't care for him. She said to her mother, "He's a creep, and I wouldn't date him if they were offering free gold nuggets at the picture." Her mother concurred. The difference in ages and his gloomy demeanor were warning signs. But Jordan refused to give up. He continued to volunteer to drive her home. Gradually, Doris confused his moody attitude with depth. In defiance of her mother's advice, she wed him in April 1941 in New York City. Doris was 19 years old. They wedged the wedding into her show schedule and took a hurried meal at a diner for their reception. What began as a young woman's rash decision eventually became a nightmare. The terror began virtually at once. Only 2 days after their wedding, Jordan's violent nature erupted. Doris kissed a bandmate on the cheek to express appreciation for a present. That was enough. Jordan pulled her into their hotel room and brutally beat her. He also humiliated her in public. Once he spotted her on a magazine cover wearing a swimsuit and slapped her at a newsstand in public. He taunted her, alienated her, and distorted every affectionate action into a betrayal. The beatings were relentless, and the terror never ceased. When Doris discovered she was pregnant 2 months into marriage, she was happy. But Jordan's reaction was appalling. He insisted that she abort the pregnancy and even arranged an abortion. Doris would not comply. Jordan